Bungie has dropped the final twab of the season, but before that, a very interesting article on many weapon changes, including exotic and reticle changes, also dropped. Let's dive into those first, shall we? First up are weapon reticles. These are split between two cones on your screen, auto aim and accuracy. They are clamped in size to avoid blocking view or changing too dramatically in size, with default FOV moving these elements as your weapon cones change. But with high FOVs, these cones cannot shrink enough to show the current angles, resulting in them being static. Fusion rifle, hand cannon, sidearm, and trace rifle reticles have been rebuilt to move more at high FOVs, while still conveying the weapon's state, with more reticles later down the line. Shotguns will also now scale with FOV, with pellet spread closely matching the reticle no matter the FOV you have. Fusions and swords have always relied on visual and audio cues, so now charge time and guard energy will be shown on your reticle to make life much easier without needing to dart your eyes around the entire screen. ADS reticles are also being experimented on. Hipfire reticles are able to scale with the two cones previously mentioned, whereas ADS reticles are all hand-built for each weapon and don't really show this info. Bungie wants to keep these hand-built aesthetics, but replace the center crosshair or red dot with a hipfire reticle variant. Shayora's Wrath got picked to be the first to get this treatment, getting an ADS reticle that reacts to the auto aim and accuracy states. It also ties into red reticle, meaning reticle color will change if an enemy is in sight and engagement range. Cool. Many exotic weapons have some sort of perk state or counts, and this information will now display on the hipfire reticle. Some exotics already convey the state very well, they add. Devil's Ruin, Salvation's Grip, and Grand Overture will be getting a charge meter. Quicksilver Storm, Ace of Spades, Lumina, and Traveler's Chosen will have pips for perked shots. Manticore will get a meter for perk buildup. Hawkmoon, Aga's Scepter, Taraba, Touch of Malice, Cryosthesia, and Trinity Ghoul will show when the exotic perk is active. And Vex Mythoclast will get a charge meter and perk counter as well. Also, something really cool is that weapon and other item inspection screens are getting an overhaul. Haven't seen that pretty much ever. With weapons being able to rotate around like armor or a sparrow. Ships will also be able to do this and preview trails like sparrows. And some weapons that have ambient VFX will play during inspection. They also quickly reiterate the introduction of full auto melee and the name change of the current full auto to full auto firing. Now, on to weapons. Tyranny of Heaven is having its stats brought up to par as they were lower than other bows. Aggressive SMGs are getting their long-awaited nerf, with base damage going from 15 to 14 and the precision multiplier from 1.45 to 1.5. This reduces crit from 21.8 to 21. As mentioned earlier on, this will bring its TTK down to about 0.77, previously about 0.67. Maybe that one SMG will be less dominant now. Speaking of it, its range got slapped a bit and reduced by 10. It will still be a solid choice with perks like Target Lock, but other weapons may now be able to compete. Snipers may finally find relevance again with a 10% PvE damage buff, possibly getting more in the future if they need more help. Bungie did not want to make the safe sniper option too dominant, understandable, but this should give them a bit of help. This doesn't, however, apply to Izzy's honed edge shots. But does apply to other exotic snipers. The long arm scout also got fixed since it was getting the extra exotic primary damage against miners. I did not know that. And on to what everyone was waiting for, exotic weapons. Eyes of Tomorrow will now refund a rocket when getting 4 kills, that is when proccing adaptive ordnance. Graviton Lance always had more damage backloaded, so its RPM will increase from 257 to 300, matching Revision Zero's 2 burst speed, and damage split between shots is also changing. Its first shot will go up from 9.5 to 19, and 15.7 to 31.4 for body and crit respectively. And its second shot will go down from 35.6 to 25.6, and 58.7 to 42.3 for body and crit respectively. Wow, that's a lot of numbers. Jade Rabbit will also now have text added to show when its Fate Evolve Fools perk is active, so you can actually know when, and will refund 3 shots instead of 1 on 3 rapid crits. Sounds like infinite ammo almost. Manticore will have its Catalyst damage resistance increased from tier 3 to 4, movement speed increased while airborne, and activating the Catalyst perk will partially refill the mag. Lumina will have its Noble Rounds cap increased from 5 to 6, matching Ace's Memento Mori amount. Heart Shadow has been made easier to work with, its bonus damage activating after only 0.25 seconds, down from 1 second, and it will now weaken on any damage while its damage bonus is active. Worldline will also get some attention after so long, with its heavy attack being able to chain into itself once. Energy cost for heavy attack will also decrease by 50%, allowing for 2 full consecutive uses back to back. And heavy attack sprinting damage will increase by 8.3%, which previously said it was decreased by 25% but was amended on Twitter. Sweet Business will now fire explosive rounds every 20 shots, fuel while spun up, and Legend of Acreus will see some improvements, with its total ammo increasing from 12 to 16 and its max projectile distance increasing from 9 meters to 12 meters, which was definitely something holding it back when your shot literally disappeared into the abyss. Tommy's Matchbook will now scorch targets while overheated, applying 14 plus 7 stacks with Ember of Ashes every 5 shots. The No Time to Explain drone can now pierce barrier champs and overpenetrate basic shields. Shields got an update, more on that soon. While also working with Feeding Frenzy now and fixing an issue with the weapon. Skyburner's Oath had its scorch stacks increased from 3 to 5 and 5 to 10 with Ember of Ashes to be more competitive with other scorch options. Salvation's Cringe, maybe less cringe now, is getting a big rework, getting 2 firing modes that are inspired by bowling apparently. The charged shot creates a pattern of stasis crystals, the number created no longer dependent on charge time, while the uncharged shot will be a normal nade launcher shot, doing more damage to crystals and frozen targets. It's also getting a new perk that reloads the mag from reserves when rapidly shattering 3 crystals with the uncharged shot. This sounds much more viable and pretty intriguing. Bad Juju has had auto rifle recoil this whole time, so it'll now have a similar pulse rifle recoil. Fighting Lion will have its massive red bar damage bug fixed. Feel like this has happened a few times now. Thunderlord will also get an issue fixed. It has become a very good DPS option due to its Catalyst introduction and machine gun buff, and having a Divinity made it even better. It will no longer count as 2 crits against div bubbles, which procced lightning strikes way more often. Should still be a good damage option though. And finally, Winterbite will also maybe actually be fixed this time, with its impact damage being removed and redistributed to its detonation damage, and self-damage scaling has been tuned to account for increased detonation damage. A lot of very neat things here, with some unfortunate but unsurprising fixes and nerfs, but Salvation's Grip is looking very interesting indeed. Let me know what you are looking forward to. Some perks are also getting updated. Fragile Focus's bonus will last until you lose your shield and will return when shields are back at 100% to let the perk uptime actually exist. Thresh, Demolitionist, and Pugilist will grant increased energy on glaive projectiles, as they weren't getting the bonus like other special ammo weapons. Reconstruction got a slight timer change, its base perk at 4 seconds and enhanced at 3.5, to allow it to be on more weapons without it going too far. And as previously mentioned, Shoot to Loot will now work with orbs, only on direct hits right now, with detonations working in the future. And there we have it. In the future, the interaction with Zoom and Damage Faller is being investigated. Weapons with a weapon type Standard Zoom will remain untouched, but weapons lower than Standard will have their Damage Faller buffed. and weapons higher than standard will have their damage fall-off reduced. This will only apply to damage fall-off, with a base damage fall-off pass coming to let those above standard weapons still feel competitive. Swords will also see a big update to make guarding actually valuable, because who actually guards? And sparrows will finally get an update that will let players use other sparrows besides always on time, without touching the sparrow itself. It has been way faster since Beyond Light, so hopefully this change will do something. On a side note, and to reiterate for weapons, after the 2-second weapon swap delay was launched a while ago now, it has been confirmed that the delay will decrease to about 1 second shortly after the season launch. On to the twab. Bungie begins with a quick recap on many changes coming next season, from economy updates to weapon, armor and ability tuning, quality of life updates, and crucible updates. We then get a visual look on the 3 new Strand aspects. Hunter's Threaded Spectre creates a decoy that detonates and creates threadlings. Titan's Fletcher Storm can throw unraveling projectiles after using your charge melee while sliding, using melee more to chain projectiles, and Warlocks create a sticky tangle that suspends when bursting, with threadlings also creating tangles. Definitely adding some new ways to play. What are you all looking forward to? They go on to reiterate how we'll be able to refund individual artifact perks, finally, making switching builds much easier. And then speaking of the artifact, we get a full look at what we'll be getting on our new NPA Repulsor Brace artifact. In column 1, our champion mods will be Anti-Barrier Auto, Unstoppable Hand Cannon, Overload Scout, Overload Trace Rifle, and Unstoppable Glaive. In column 2, our authorization mods will be Arc, Void, Strand, Melee, and a dual siphon for Arc and Strand, like the previous Void and Strand. In column 3, Improved Unraveling will increase the damage dealt by unraveling a target. Deeper Origins will improve the benefits of the Unsated Hunger, Nanotech Tracer Rockets, Harmonic Resonance, and Noble Deeds Origin traits. Unto the Breach will create a Void Breach when defeating a Void debuff target while on Void. Electric Armor lets us stay amplified longer when on Arc, and lastly, Thunderous Retort grants bonus Arc super damage if cast while critically wounded or while amplified, lasting until the end of the super activation. In column 4, Strand Soldier gives your Strand weapons unraveling rounds whenever you gain Woven Mail while on Strand. Overcharged Armory makes your weapons with the Unsated Hunger, Nanotech Tracer Rockets, Harmonic Resonance, and Noble Deeds Origin traits overcharged weapons when that modifier is active. Protective Breach will give you an overshield or refresh a current one when collecting a Void Breach. Countercharge gives 1 armor charge upon defeating a champ. And lastly, Amped Up grants damage resistance while amplified. I feel like Electric Armor and Amped Up got switched. Their names make more sense swapped around, and Amped Up has previously been an extended amplified timer. But what do I know, right? And in column 5, Conductive Cosmic Needle, that's a mouthful, lets targets affected by Strand debuffs take increased damage from Arc and Void abilities. Shock and Awe has Arc Final Blows while amplified summon a burst of lightning that damages and jolts targets. Wow. Supernova lets collecting a Void Breach make your next bit of Void damage create a large weakening pulse. Also wow. Squad Goals lets a finisher, while in a specific state, give that state to allies, which sounds pretty nice. Amplified while on Arc, Woven Mail on Strand, and Devour on Void. Teamwork for life. And finally, Lightning Strikes Twice Again, where you gain increased grenade recharge rate after throwing an Arc grenade. Arc Final Blows extend this short timer. This looks to be the season of Arc, Void, and Strand again, this time around, Strand being relatively new still, and Arc replacing Solar. And these mods are looking very interesting. Definitely a lot of build potential here. Combatant shields are getting a visual overhaul, having not been touched since the transition from D1 to D2. This is only a visual change and will not affect gameplay. The simplification is to help make these elements more accessible for colorblind and visually impaired players, as well as minimize unnecessary visual information. Moving to a new shield system, the team is able to provide more visual cues for each shield to indicate the best element to use, as well as being able to maintain this system better. White immunity shields and boss shields will not be touched, as they are much more complex and could cause undesired harm. Everyone has heard about the stability of the game by now. The extra maintenance windows and emergency maintenance where the game had to be brought offline are more prevalent than ever. Bungie have been working in the background to upgrade their technology for the long term. The current method of staging the update on their servers and having only a brief downtime before players jump right back into the game after the update or patch is causing issues. So, what are they doing? Every update, starting with Season of the Deep, will now have an expected 1.5 hours scheduled downtime where the game will go offline to allow their staging and rollout to happen more closely. This should hopefully help with overall stability and reliance in the future. There will also be a new Twitch bounty emblem, if anyone is interested in that, called Pulsar Approaching. Pretty cool looking. This can be collected at the start of next week if you complete the requirements. Finally, the update schedule for Season 21 launch next week is shown to us. And remember, the game will go offline now to help with stability for a short time. And that is the last of any Season 21 news and pre-season communication, probably. The last thing we should get is the official trailer sometime next week before the season launch, so look out for that. If you found this at all helpful or enjoyed your stay, dropping a like or sub would be pretty awesome and greatly appreciated. You can always change your mind later. I've also done a massive roundup of everything that we found out about next season, so go check that out if you're interested in a refresher or new info. That's all from me. Have a great weekend and look forward to next week. Later.